Alright guys, so I did get the ammo box back. She's painted, but in this video I'm going to show you kind of how I wire everything up on the outside. I got the batteries laid out, how they're going to be in the ammo box. And I got some thick terminal connectors because I'm going to have two wires going in there. And it's going to be tight, but I'm going to have two wires going in there because I'm going to have to wire all this in parallel. Because since I couldn't fit the big battery, if you wanted to get multiple small batteries to make one big battery in theory, what you need to do is connect ground to ground to ground, and then the ground to your switch panel, and then power all the way to the switch panel. And so I'm about to show you how I do that. So what I do is I take a terminal that's going to fit, and I'm going to start with the single side first, just to kind of show y'all how this all goes down. So I'm going to go ahead and strip a wire for the negative, and I'm going to use brown for negative. And you don't want to strip much. You probably want to strip, that's probably good right there. Kind of twist it just a little bit, slide some heat shrink over, and put the terminal on. Whenever you kind of twist it on there, when you see wires coming out the tip of it, that's kind of where I stop. Since this terminal is blue, you want to use the blue crimp setting and kind of just put in the middle and crimp down. And what I do is I slide the heat shrink over. All right, and I like to use a heat gun, but y'all can use whatever. A lighter will work. Soldering iron will work. You can just touch the tip with that. But I like to use this. Usually I do cut it to make it look nicer and kind of just pat it down. That way there ain't such a long line, but I only have one more of it left anyway for the thin blue one, so that's kind of what I do anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and do the, actually I guess I'll go ahead and show you how to finish off with the negatives. This is actually going to be bent back down to how it used to be a long time ago. Move it down about right there. And it's going to come wrap around to here. I'm going to just leave a little bit of slack just in case something was to happen. Cut it right there. Pick this wire back up. And now I'm going to have to strip them both pretty long. So I'm going to strip both of these a little bit longer. And this is going to be a little bit more trickier, because I'm trying to fit two thick wires that are not supposed to really work together. And this is actually 12 gauge wire. You don't have to use 12 gauge wire. I just figured I might as well use it. And I'm going to kind of squeeze both of these wires in there. I'm going to go ahead and crimp that down. And then I'm going to go ahead and use my heat shrink to right here. Let me unplug this. Now let's go ahead and get the next one ready to go. But that's basically what you do. Now you're just going to cut this wire to come all the way right here. That's basically all you got to do. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, and I'll get back to y'all. Alright, so here's what it looks like when everything's done. You got all your positives wrapped around to each other. Then you're left with one wire that's going to go to the switch panel. And then you're going to have also all the grounds connected together. You have one wire going to your switch panel, because I'm going to have the radio's getting its power from the switch. The amps are getting their power from the switch. So everything's getting everything it needs from this switch. Alright, so on the switch panel, I'm actually show you this while I'm still down here. I'm putting it on this switch. So I disconnected it with how it was, and this is what mine looks like right now. I disconnected the wires from the cigarette lighter because this is going to go directly to the battery. It's not going to be on any switch, so that's going to be my jump right there. But also, you need to make a wire go from this positive to the open terminal on this switch. So to do that, and I actually ran out of heat shrink since I'm just, great at planning on having enough heat shrink. Actually, I'm just going to use electrical tape for this one. So you do is you take your wire, go ahead and slide it into the terminal, kind of like you did with the batteries. Go ahead and crimp that down. And this is actually not the right size terminal, but it'll work. 14 gauge wire going into like a 18 gauge minimum. I kind of just get it started, then wrap it tight. It's not the best to look at, but I mean, it still does the same as having heat shrink. Heat shrink definitely does look a lot better, but I was more worried about the battery connectors having heat shrink versus switches. So now I'm going to go ahead and put this on the open terminal that I have, which is that switch right there. I'm going to go ahead and kind of run the wire through this mess, something like that, and cut it to where I need it. Like I said, you need to use the blue terminals, but I'm getting enough wire in there that it's going to work. Sweet. So now that's jumped in. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead, So what I did was I ran a positive wire from the cigarette lighter, and I ran it to all the positives, soldered the tips together. So now I'm gonna solder the butt connector. Oh, I'm gonna use this side. Solder the butt connector over all of them. So just a quick little disclaimer, this switch panel already came put together the right way. I went ahead and like cut a few wires. So there should only be one power wire that's connected to everything. You should not have to do this. I went away and cut some power wires. So it came back and bit me in the butt. But I totally forgot that I did that. So you shouldn't have to be doing this. There should already be one power wire ready to go. The other two wires, I'll explain what they are in a little bit, but let's get back to it. And you need a fuse. You gotta have a fuse. So I found an old fuse. I'm just gonna crimp them all together, but you got to have a fuse coming off your batteries. That's one thing I definitely forgot about, is having a fuse. So now everything's good. I'm gonna go ahead and tape that up real quick. All right, so now our positive wire is ready to be connected to the battery. So now it's time to do the sound deadening. Since we got everything ready to go now, ammo box is back from paint. And I just wanted to go ahead and do it before and after. And the next time I knock on it, it's gonna sound like. So what I do is, actually, what am I doing with this? I measure it first. And I'm gonna do right on the inside edge. I'm gonna say roughly 10 1/4 by, let's just say 5 1/4. All right, so what I do is lay it down. I go ahead and measure 10 1/4. Oh shit, maybe I did it long ways. 10 1/4, and you can't see it on this ruler, but 10 1/4 is about right here. And it ain't got to be perfect either. And what I do is kind of make as straight as possible line along that. Like I said, it ain't got to be perfect as long as the majority of the ammo box gets covered with it. So now we need to measure 5 1/4. And cutting directly on the ground is gonna dull your knife, but it's the easiest way I found to do it. So now you just go ahead and peel it back the layer. Make sure you got no cardboard left on there. And you just kind of go ahead and tuck it in where it needs to be. And there's actually a roller tool they have for these things, but I don't have the roller tool. I used to. I don't have it anymore. What I tend to do now is just kind of do this with my hand and make sure that it is on there. Just drag my hand across it, pushing all the edges. That's how you do the lid. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and do the sound deadening for the box itself. Kind of measure. Same thing on the other side, so we're about 10 1/2 by, oh yeah, I'm gonna do 5. Just kind of just set it down up against one corner like this. And then you just kind of push down with it. And then it's probably short, but that's okay. I'm gonna overlap it anyway here and there. All right, so now what I did was I went ahead and threw one sheet on the inside, and I'm gonna show you what I do. Just go ahead and peel it off and put it on. And then all I do is go ahead and cut it out with the knife on the outside. I do this for every hole, except for the holes where you're gonna put screws, nuts, bolts, whatever you wanna do for the speakers. I'm doing bolts. I just leave those be and just push it through. All right, guys, so we finally just got done doing everything. It doesn't look the nicest inside of there, but every inch of it's covered. You don't have to do every inch, but guess what? Definitely doesn't sound hollow anymore at all. So now since it's like that, actually I went ahead and poked a hole for each screw to, or for each bolt to go through. And these are actually the bolts I'm using. I'm using a 632, 3/4 inch. There's 12 of them, and the same thing, 632. And these are the you know, what, this is the lock nut. So I probably should have gotten washers, but I didn't. But I mean, it is what it is. But these do just slide right on in there, kind of like that. This speaker has to go in first, and it has to go upside down with the way these terminals are. So I don't know if I'm gonna do both speakers upside down. I'm not for sure just yet, but this is the first screw that has to go in, so we're gonna go ahead and put it in. We're gonna silicone it. And this is the silicone that I bought. It was whatever brand this is, clear. Just what I do is kind of just go ahead and get it going. And this is gonna stink for a couple days too. See how my hand's at the bottom like this? Mm-hmm. And then I'm gonna line that hole up. These other holes as well. Now you do, hurry up and get nut onto the bolt. Easiest way to do is get a Phillip and a ratchet to fit that nut. Since it's a lock washing nut, you have to bolt it in all the way using a ratchet. All right, so what I do is kind of take my finger and I take the excess that's oozing through. All right, so we got that damn speaker in. I had to grind this bolt as well as this one on the other side. I actually had to cut out a piece of this out just big enough for this battery to slide under and push in there and tuck underneath that. It's because of the way the speaker's designed. It's depending on the speakers that you got, it might be a little different. But now she's ready to go. This battery right here slides nicely right next to it, fits right in there. I'm a little worried about how this battery is going to interfere with things. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and put the antenna in. And I don't use silicone. All I do is take it apart and put it in how I showed you in the mock-up video. All right, got the antenna mount on, took the antenna off. Now I have my gap that I need to look at real quick. That's just what I was kind of worried about. If I would have just scooted it over just a little bit more, man, it would have fit. First way that I had it mounted was actually perfect. The speaker comes in, butts up against it. The antenna's holding it in place, so that's kind of going to be how it mounts. The only problem that I'm going to have is getting the bolt in for the speaker on while this battery is in there. It's going to be the trickiest part, but I'm going to go ahead and grind it down. I'm going to measure how much I have left, grind that much off of a new bolt, and just use that. You have to bend this ground up for the gain knob to slide in there nicely. Got all the wires dangling out. I forgot how close the switch panel was to the battery, so that fuse might be a little bit too long on the switch, but that's fine. We'll get it to work, not a problem. I'm gonna go ahead and silicone this speaker up, get it mounted in there. Please install speaker wire first before you even do that. Getting that nut on down there was a pain in the ass, and that wasn't fun either, but it is doable. So what I'm doing is I got the ground coming from the batteries going to the ground to the switch panel, but I need another ground to wrap back for the 2 amps in the radio. And I'm just gonna put these two together with some heat shrink over it. Now we gotta go ahead and connect the power from the battery to the switch panel. And then we also need to jump off this yellow wire. This needs to go directly to the battery because the red wire is just the switch. I had the power coming from the battery going into the switch panel, and I jumped a constant for the radio. And here's the back of the radio plug to plug into the radio, and then everything will be good to go. The radio, remember the stations, channels, and everything that it was already connected to. One thing that I failed to mention earlier is that these lights, they come on when they're off and when they're on. So there's 2 wires. This blue wire is for whenever it's like this, and that yellow wire is whenever it's on like so. If you remove the blue wire, the standby light turns off. So if you don't want any lights on whenever it's off, just remove the blue wire. What I want to say is whenever you get these amps, you want to open this up, and that, let me flip it up, this screw right here, you want to turn that all the way to the right. That turns the gain all the way up, because these, I mean, your speakers should be able to handle it turned all the way up. Just don't turn the radio all the way up, and use the gain knob to turn it down if you have to. And then I take these wires and I cut them the same size, and I strip them and I twist them together, and then I take that and I run a wire from this all the way to the switch panel. So I'm gonna have a wire come dangling out of here. But to mount them, I'm sticking this one roughly around this area, kind of like this, easy to access if I ever need to get to it. And I'm sticking the other one, just extra slack out, roughly around this area. So I'm gonna stick this one far down enough to where it isn't gonna interfere with the other one or anything else like that. And I can plug up this speaker and the speaker that I'm about to put in, and run that wire that I need to, and have a ground ready to go. So to mount them, I usually do, all I do is take this, stick it, kind of cut it a bunch of corners, and stick it like that, and then stick the amp to where I want it. So I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. There. Just kind of stick it. Yeah, it is a little crooked from this angle, but I mean, it's on there. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. I went ahead and plugged up that bottom speaker and tucked away the wires. I got these ready to go on whenever I get to that point. I'm gonna go and put these 2 in right here, screw them in, and then plug up the top one to this amp. I'm gonna mount the next amp right here. Go ahead and plug that one in. Then I'm gonna go ahead and run this wire while I have this slack right here. I don't really like this radio, I might switch it out. So for the wire coming from the radio to tell the radio to turn on, connecting to the switch, I'm gonna put this wire on a quick connect just in case for whenever I do switch it out, it'd be a lot easier. But other than that, you can just connect the red wire from the radio to these two wires and run a red wire, connect them together to the middle switch. But just to make it easy for the future, I'm gonna put it on a quick connect because this just pops on into there. Went ahead and connected them. Now I got the radio harness kind of dangling right here until I mess with the ground. Got the red wire coming out, so now I go ahead and plug it up like so. And now we just gotta run a red wire after we mount this amp from this amp coming out to where we have slack. And then we'll mess with the grounds right after that. Alright, so I went ahead and jumped the ground on a quick connect from the radio. I joined both grounds from the amp, put them on a quick connect, so I'm about to connect these two together. I got the amp mounted, ended up mounting it sideways. Now thinking about it, I could have put them both right here. But hey, it is what it is. At least this one further down allows me to get access to the bottom of that speaker a little bit easier. Also, I went ahead and connected the gain knobs, got those in. And they're zip tied and tucked away there. So now the only other thing left to do, go ahead and get this red wire right here, get everything sized up and mount that, and then put some silicone on this and mount that up, and put the aux port in before I put in any other speakers. Oh man, she is coming together nicely. Got all the speakers in. Now I'm just about to go ahead and throw this in, move the wires out the way, put silicone around the edges before I screw it in. And then it's time to go ahead and install the radio, then I'll be done. So let's go ahead and do that. Switch panel in, everything's silicone. You can see silicone from the backside kind of oozing in. I got the aux port and antenna plugged up. I'm about to work my way to get the amps connected. Remember, I put a link for one that has males if you're doing 2 amps, or if you're doing 1 amp, then you're just going to need these, which is double male. But this is what I had laying around, so this is what I use since I was on a budget. But I'm gonna go ahead and put this amp in, or put this radio in, and you know, get everything nice and tidy. As far as everything in here, it's an absolute mess. I did not have any room to work with because this thing is so skinny. Maybe y'all could do better. I have no patience for this because it's just way too cramped for me. But I'm gonna go ahead and throw this radio in. We're all done and she is ready to go. I'm not gonna do any sound clips in this video. I'm gonna save it for the next video for whenever I do the review and everything I like about it and whatnot. And once I get to know more about it, that's when I'm gonna do a sound test just to keep y'all guys waiting. So please, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Leave a comment if you have any questions, and please subscribe to stay tuned. Appreciate it.